Mr. Way's interest in English portraits began over 30 years ago. However, over the course of time, he felt an admiration for Dutch paintings from the 17th century. While searching the New York area, he built up a wonderful collection of period Dutch paintings by major artists, as well as those from important schools. Many examples in his collection are signed. However, many are impossible to identify, either because the paintings need cleaning or that they are in an area that it is hard to see. In this group of pictures, we see a diversity of subjects that enthralled the Dutch painters. Landscapes, still lives, portraits, genre, scenes, animals, and other engaging subjects. Though it was difficult to choose pictures to talk about, I thought I would talk about a few of the gems that make up a total of over 150 examples. This small panel exhibits peasants in a tavern and is signed by Adrian van Ostade, who focused mainly on tavern scenes. Here we see men drinking and smoking pipes. Another interesting painting is this one, where a man is playing an instrument while a couple is seen dancing. This could well be entitled Merry Company, since everyone in this picture appears to be enjoying themselves. In this painting, a portrait of a man with a beard, we can still witness the vivid colours in this man's face as though it had been painted yesterday. It dates to the early years of the 17th century and is painted on panel. Though unsigned, it is no doubt from the hand of a master painter. We must remember that the size of a painting does not indicate quality, and in this small painting one can see the delicacy of treatment that this artist captured on wood. It depicts a young man pouring wine into a goblet. This small gem is attributed to Jan Steen, who was one of Holland's most famous painters. In order to commission a portrait in Holland in the 17th century, you needed to be either wealthy or noble. This unique portrait of a man is such a case. He is from the workshop of Peter Paul Rubens and has been identified as Nicus Lucox, who was not only a friend of Rubens, but burgomaster of Antwerp in the early years of the 17th century. His beard is resting on his wonderful S-scroll ruff. The Dutch painters of this period favoured their countryside so much, in fact, that they found the urge to paint everything around them. Flowers were of particular interest by a handful of Dutch painters, such as this small example of a vase of flowers such as tulips and chrysanthemums resting on a table. It is signed, but hard to read since the painting is in need of a good cleaning. In the late 16th and early 17th century, Holland was an important seafaring nation. Quite a few Dutch painters enjoyed painting the ever-changing sea. In this picture, we see a storm approaching as its rippling waves and its gloomy dark clouds surely indicate. It's always a bonus when we find a portrait where we are able to give an appropriate date of the sitter as well as when it was executed. This portrait probably is by Jan de Bree and depicts a woman who is aged 65. It was painted on an oak panel in the year 1650. As one can see from this portrait, as well as the others in the collection, the influence of Rembrandt is surely present. The use of oak panels, canvas, and yes, even copper sheets were favoured by many Dutch painters, including Rembrandt van Rijn. This is only a portion of the art collection, which consists of over 150 paintings. Many have been discovered in flea markets, antique shops, and a few purchased from various auction houses. What makes this collection interesting is due to the fact that George Way has discovered quite a few of these masterpieces for a fraction of their actual worth. Many have been labelled 19th century when in fact they were of the period. In the Elizabethan room, all the pieces are unique and a few should be mentioned. The open-tier cupboard, so popular at the time of Elizabeth I, would have been used in the Great Hall. These important cupboards were used to display fine silver pieces, especially for silver cups. Its cup and cover supports, which are richly carved, were now quite massive, which are also seen on the posts of the bed as well as on the other important cupboard. These types of turnings were also used for the long and heavy refectory tables of Elizabethan times. The main wood at this time was oak. It lasted for centuries. However, it was harder to carve and turn when compared to the softer woods. The bed dates to the time of Elizabeth, which was made about 1570 to 1580, while the headboard displays her royal coat of arms together with her initials ER for Elizabeth Regina. The carving on this headboard represents the finest Elizabethan carving of its day. The early portrait of a man attributed to Marcus Geretz the Younger might be that of Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex. Chairs at this time were scarce. However, this example represents the heavy plank chairs that were in use at this time, known as a wainscot chair, which indicates it has a solid back and seat. Chairs at this time were solely reserved for the man of the house, while the wife and children were forced to use stools or chests. The use of cushions surely played a major role when it came to comfort. It was not until much later when upholstery played a major part in the way of comfort.